Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Li Weipeng. My matrix number is 205809. Today, I want to discuss a topic that defines our future, but is often misunderstood: environmental production. We often hear the premise, protecting the environment starts with me. But is individual action surely the only key to solving the climate crisis? Today, I propose a different perspective. Real change must be led by those who hold the most power. Before we begin, let's look at the data. This comes from the Carbon Major Report. Just 100 companies are responsible for over 7% of global carbon emissions. Yes, just 100. This struggling status reveals a hard truth we often overlook. The climate crisis is not primarily driven by whether you or I turn off the lights. It's driven by systematic inaction from the most powerful actors in our society: large corporations and institutions. Therefore, my core argument today is clear. Governments and corporations, not individuals, must take the lead in environmental production. Why? Because they possess the structural power, the financial resources, and the regulatory authority to implement large-scale listing change. Next, drawing on recent academic research, I will explain this through three key areas: the structural problem, social inequity, and the solution. First, let's talk about why relying on individuals is inefficient. It's not just about score, it's a structural problem. In a 2024 study published in the Journal of Environmental Studies and Science, scholars Chen and Li propose a critical concept: corporate structural responsibility. They argue that enterprises are not passive attitudes. The root causes of environmental degradation and embedded in individual production methods and corporate governments. For example, if a factory's production line is designed to be polluting, the pollution exists before the product even reaches the supermarket shelf. As Chen and Li confirm, without changing the production structure at the source, relying on consumer choice at the end is merely treating the symptoms, not the disease. Second, placing too much emphasis on individual responsibility creates a serious ethical issue: social inequity. Wang and Gupta 2024 highlight this in their research on developing economies. In many developing nations, citizens often face economic pressure and lack access to expensive green alternatives. If we place the burden of environmental production on individuals, we are essentially asking those with the least capacity to change the system to bear the heaviest responsibility. Wang and Gupta argue that this allows major polluters and evade accountability, and it's a feature of social justice. So, if individual action isn't enough, what is remedy? Liu and Zhang 2024 proposed a powerful framework in their research: synergistic governance. This framework has two parts. First, governments must act as rule maker. This includes creating logically branding standards and carbon pricing mechanisms. Governments need to send clear policy signals to redirect the market. Second, corporations must act as engine of innovation. They possess the capital and R&D capacities. They shouldn't just comply. They must proactively translate government rules into scale green technologies. As Liu and Zhang in perhaps only when regulation policy synergize with corporate innovation will see real transformation. Implementing the government-led corporate act model brings us three major benefits. First, efficiency. According to Liu and Zhang, the synergy between regulation and innovation accelerates the translation far faster than consumer behavior even could. Secondly, equity. As Wang and Gupta advocate, this relieves the unfair burden on individuals, especially in developing regions. It alleviates environmental goals and economic development. Finally, violations. By relying on a common capability with power, we build a stable foundation for a future green economy. So, does this mean we, as individuals, shouldn't do nothing? Absolutely not. But our role needs to shift from passive consumers to active watching dogs. I call on everyone to take two concerned actions. First, advocate. Support legislations and that mandate large corporations to disclose their complete carbon footprints. As mentioned earlier, transparency is the prerequisite for accountability. Second, vote with your wallet. This isn't just shopping, it's strategy. Problem lies brands that are genuinely transforming their supply chains. Tell the market, if it's not green, it's not business. Change may seem vast, but its starting point lies in our modest. Next time you hesitate about supporting an eco-friendly brand, remember your choice is more than just a purchase. It's an endorsement of responsible business and a vote for our shared future. Thank you, everyone.